Silence is the most powerful tool you can use after a breakup, yet it is often the most underestimated. When someone walks away from you, they expect a reaction. They expect anger, sadness, pleading, or at the very least, some sign that you are affected. That expectation is built on a deep psychological need. People want to feel important. They want to feel like their presence, or in this case, their absence, matters. And when you deny them that confirmation, when you give them nothing but silence, it unsettles them in a way they never saw coming. When a relationship ends, emotions run high. Your first instinct might be to reach out, to seek closure, to demand answers, or to make them see what they lost. But the more you chase, the more they pull away. The more you try to make them see your pain, the more power you give away. And here's the truth most people don't want to accept. The person who walks away from you has already justified their decision in their mind. They have convinced themselves that leaving is the right choice, at least for now. They assume you will react in a predictable way, that you will try to reason with them, that you will hold on. And as long as you do exactly what they expect, they feel in control. They feel that their absence still dictates your emotions. But what happens when you do the opposite? What happens when instead of reacting, you go completely silent? Suddenly the dynamic shifts. The person who left starts to wonder, why aren't they reaching out? Why aren't they trying to fight for me? Did I not mean as much as I thought? And that is where the real power of silence begins. Silence is not just about not speaking. It is about completely removing your energy, your presence, and your emotional response from the situation. This is not a game. This is not about playing hard to get. It is about reclaiming your power and refusing to invest in someone who no longer invests in you. When you cut off all communication, you are making a statement, not to them, but to yourself. You are saying, I am no longer available to someone who does not value me. And that is the most powerful message you can send. See, people always assume they have access to you. They believe that even if they walk away, they can still return whenever they want. They assume that their place in your life is permanent, that their absence will be felt so strongly that you will eventually come looking for them. But when you remove that certainty, when you disappear from their world completely, they begin to feel something they never expected. Doubt. Doubt is what eats away at people's minds. Doubt makes them question their choices. Doubt makes them wonder if they made the right decision. At first, they might feel relief. They might think, good, no drama. They're not bothering me. This breakup is easier than I thought. But as time goes on, that silence grows louder. They check their phone and see nothing from you. They scroll through their messages, expecting to find a missed call, a late night text, a sign that you are still affected, but there is nothing. And that nothing becomes unbearable. Because now, they don't just miss you. They start to wonder if you were ever as attached as they believed. The mind hates uncertainty. It wants closure. It wants validation. It wants to feel important. And when someone who was once deeply involved in their life suddenly becomes a ghost, their ego takes a hit. The silence becomes a mirror, forcing them to confront their own choices without any external reassurance. Instead of you being the one struggling with the breakup, now they are the ones sitting with their own thoughts, replaying moments in their head, questioning if they made a mistake. And the irony, the more they wonder, the more they feel the loss. See, when you actively chase someone after a breakup, they know you still want them. They feel secure knowing you are still emotionally attached. But when you give them nothing, no calls, no messages, no social media updates, suddenly they are left with only their imagination. And the imagination is far more powerful than reality. They start picturing you moving on. They start wondering if you've met someone else. They think about the idea that maybe, just maybe, you were stronger than they gave you credit for. And that thought alone drives them crazy because they left believing they were in control. They thought they could move on easily while you struggled. But now, the silence is forcing them to question everything. The longer you stay silent, the more they feel it. The more they feel it, the more they start to regret. And the moment they begin to regret, they feel the loss in a way they never expected. The most powerful transformation you can make after a breakup is shifting your focus away from what was lost and toward what can be gained. When someone leaves, your first instinct might be to look back, to analyze every moment, to question what went wrong, and to wonder if there's something you could have done differently. That instinct is natural, but it's also the very thing that keeps you stuck. The longer you dwell on the past, the more you anchor yourself to a situation that no longer exists. And the harder you hold on, the more power you give to someone who has already walked away. The truth is, people only feel the weight of their decisions when they see undeniable evidence that they were wrong. And the most undeniable proof of their mistake is your elevation. Nothing unsettles a person more than realizing that their absence did not break you, but instead became the very thing that pushed you to become stronger. The moment you take all the energy you once directed toward that relationship and reinvest it into yourself, you start to grow in ways they never expected. And that growth forces them to reconsider everything they once thought about you. When someone leaves, they often assume they are making the better choice. They believe that life without you will be easier, that they are moving towards something better, that they have outgrown what you had together. And they assume that you, on the other hand, will struggle, will miss them, will linger in the emotional space they left behind. That assumption gives them comfort. It makes them feel powerful. It reassures them that they made the right decision. But when you do the opposite, when you rise instead of fall, everything they believed begins to crumble. At first, they might not notice. They might go on living their life confident in their choice. But over time, something shifts. They start to hear about the new things you're doing, see the changes you're making, notice that you are no longer the same person they walked away from. And that realization shakes them to the core. Because now they are not just dealing with the loss of who you were, they are dealing with the regret of not being part of who you are becoming. It's important to understand that leveling up does not mean pretending to be happy or trying to make them jealous. True growth is not about proving anything to them. It's about proving everything to yourself. It's about recognizing that your value does not decrease just because someone failed to see it. It's about stepping into the version of yourself that was always waiting beneath the surface. The version that was perhaps dimmed by that relationship. The version that was always capable but never fully unleashed. When you take all the pain, all the hurt, all the disappointment, and you channel it into building something extraordinary, you create a force that cannot be ignored. You become the person they never thought you could be. The person they never realized they would one day miss. And that is the greatest shift of all. People only regret losing what they can no longer reach. If you remain the same, if you stay in the same place emotionally and mentally, they will never truly feel your absence. But when you evolve, when you surpass every expectation they had of you, when you step into your power in a way that makes it impossible to look at you the same way, that's when the weight of their decision begins to settle in. Because now they are not just missing what they lost, they are missing what they will never have again. This transformation is not about revenge. It is not about proving anything to someone who could not see your worth. It is about making the decision to stop living in the shadows of the past and start building a future so magnetic, so powerful, that it commands attention. When you shift your energy from looking back to moving forward, you step into a realm where their opinions, their choices, and their absence no longer define you. And that is the moment they begin to feel the full weight of what they walked away from. Emotions are powerful, and after a breakup, they can feel overwhelming. The pain, the confusion, the sense of loss, it all weighs on you, making it hard to think clearly. Your mind replays every moment, searching for answers, trying to make sense of why things ended the way they did. You feel the urge to reach out, to explain yourself, to seek closure. But the truth is, the more you stay emotionally attached, the more power you give to someone who has already made the choice to leave. Emotional detachment is not about pretending you don't care. It's not about suppressing your feelings or acting like the relationship didn't matter. It's about reclaiming your power by refusing to let someone else's decisions dictate your emotional state. It's about recognizing that your happiness, your self-worth, and your peace of mind do not depend on another person. And when you understand this, you free yourself from the invisible chains that keep you bound to the past. When you are emotionally attached to someone, you are giving them control over your thoughts, your feelings, and even your actions. Every message they don't send, every update you see from them, every reminder of what used to be, it all has the power to shift your mood, to stir up emotions, to pull you back into a cycle of pain. And as long as you remain in that cycle, you are not truly free. You are still allowing them to have influence over your life, even when they are no longer a part of it. Detaching emotionally does not happen overnight. It is a process, and it requires a conscious decision to shift your focus away from what you lost and toward what you are gaining. The first step is to recognize that your emotions are not facts. Just because you feel like you need them, just because you miss them, just because you still have love for them, does not mean that they are necessary for your happiness. Feelings come and go. They are temporary. And if you allow them to dictate your actions, you will find yourself stuck in a loop of longing and disappointment. One of the most effective ways to detach is to stop romanticizing the past. After a breakup, it is easy to look back and only remember the good times. Your mind will selectively replay the best moments, making you forget about the pain, the arguments, the ways you were unfulfilled. But the reality is, if that relationship was meant to last, it would have. If that person truly valued you, they would have stayed. And as harsh as it may sound, holding on to a fantasy of what could have been is only preventing you from embracing what is. Another important step is to remove their presence from your life. This does not mean you have to hate them or hold grudges. It simply means creating space for yourself to heal. Stop checking their social media. Stop looking for signs that they might come back. Stop holding on to things that remind you of them. Every time you engage in these behaviors, you are reopening a wound that is trying to heal. You are keeping yourself connected to a situation that no longer serves you. When you detach emotionally, you begin to see the situation for what it truly is. You start to understand that their departure was not a reflection of your worth, but rather a reflection of their own choices. And when you fully accept this, you no longer feel the need to prove anything to them. You no longer seek validation from someone who did not appreciate what they had. Instead, you redirect that energy toward yourself, toward building a life that is fulfilling, independent of their presence. As time goes on, you start to feel a shift. The weight that once felt unbearable becomes lighter. The memories that once haunted you begin to fade. The emotions that once controlled you lose their grip. And in this space of clarity, something powerful happens. The person who once had power over your emotions starts to feel the emptiness of your absence. They start to notice that the control they once had is gone. They start to wonder why you are no longer affected, why you are no longer reaching out, why you seem to be moving forward without them. People are drawn to what they can no longer have. When you were emotionally invested in them, they felt secure knowing that no matter what happened, you would always be there. But when you detach, when you no longer react, when you no longer crave their attention, they feel it. And that feeling of no longer being needed, of no longer being able to affect you, creates an unease within them that they never expected. This is not about revenge. It is not about making them suffer. It is about taking back control over your life. Because at the end of the day, your emotions should belong to you, not to someone who walked away. When you prioritize self-care and transformation, you shift the entire dynamic of a breakup. Most people expect pain, desperation, and longing after a relationship ends. They assume that the person they left behind will struggle, that they will dwell in sadness, and that they will constantly think about what was lost. But when you do the opposite, when you redirect all that emotional energy into rebuilding yourself, you create an unexpected reality, one that is far more powerful than any words you could ever say. The way you carry yourself after a breakup sends a message. It tells the other person whether their absence has weakened you or strengthened you. When they see you thriving, when they see you glowing, when they see you stepping into a new level of confidence, they start to feel the weight of what they walked away from. It forces them to question their decision, to wonder if they misjudge your value, and to rethink whether they truly made the right choice. But this transformation is not about them. It is about you. It is about recognizing that your life does not end because someone chose to leave. It is about understanding that your happiness was never meant to be dependent on another person. And most importantly, it is about stepping into the best version of yourself, not for revenge, not to prove anything, but because you deserve to experience life at your highest potential. The first step in this transformation is self-care, but not in the shallow way most people think of it. This is not just about spa days or treating yourself to something nice. This is about deep, intentional care for your body, mind, and soul. It is about taking back control over your health, your routine, and your overall well-being. It starts with something as simple as taking care of your body, fueling yourself with nourishing foods, exercising, not just to look better, but to feel stronger, and making sure you are getting enough rest. The way you treat your body affects the way you feel about yourself. And when you feel good, you radiate confidence in a way that cannot be ignored. But physical self-care is just one piece of the puzzle. The real transformation happens on a mental and emotional level. After a breakup, your mind is filled with thoughts of the past. You find yourself reliving conversations, analyzing what went wrong, and getting stuck in loops of regret or resentment. The key to breaking free from this cycle is to shift your focus forward. Instead of replaying the past, start designing your future. Set new goals, pick up new habits, learn something new. Anything that challenges you to grow. When you have something to work toward, your energy shifts from what was to what is possible. One of the most powerful things you can do after a breakup is to redefine your identity. When you were in that relationship, you shared experiences, routines, and even parts of your personality with the other person. Now that they are gone, it is time to rediscover who you are on your own. This is the time to explore your interests, to try new things, to push yourself in ways you never have before. The more you invest in yourself, the more you build a version of yourself that is stronger, wiser, and more resilient. As you continue on this path of self-care and transformation, something interesting happens. The person who once felt certain about leaving starts to feel uncertain. They begin to see you differently. They see the glow in your skin, the confidence in your posture, the energy in your voice. They see the person they once knew, but they also see someone new, someone they may no longer have access to. And that realization is what makes them feel the breakup 10 times harder. Because when someone leaves, they expect to be missed. They expect to be chased. They expect to be the one who was too good for the relationship. But when they see you evolving without them, When they see you becoming someone even better, that expectation is shattered. They are left wondering if they made a mistake, if they underestimated you, if they gave up on something far more valuable than they realized. But by then, it doesn't even matter. Because the truth is, this transformation was never about them in the first place. It was always about you, about your growth, your healing, and your ability to turn pain into power. And that is the ultimate shift that changes everything. Silence is one of the most powerful responses you can give after a breakup. When a relationship ends, emotions run high, and the natural reaction for many people is to seek closure, to plead for answers, or to try and prove their worth to the person who left. But in reality, the most effective way to make someone feel the impact of losing you is not through words, but through your absence. Silence creates a void, and that void becomes louder than any conversation ever could. The reason silence is so powerful is that it disrupts the expected pattern. When someone walks away from you, they often expect a certain reaction. They expect messages filled with questions, anger, sadness, or desperate attempts to reconnect. They assume that you will reach out, that you will try to hold on, that you will keep them in your world in some way. And because of that expectation, when you choose to do nothing, when you completely remove yourself from their life, it catches them off guard. It forces them to wonder what is going on in your mind, to question whether you truly cared, and to feel the weight of your absence in a way they never anticipated. Human psychology is fascinating because people tend to desire what they no longer have access to. When you were in the relationship, they knew you were there. They felt secure in your presence, your affection, your loyalty. But the moment you withdraw all of that energy, it triggers something deep inside them. They begin to wonder why you aren't reacting, why you aren't chasing, why you aren't trying to fight for them. That uncertainty creates a psychological discomfort known as cognitive dissonance, where their actions leaving you don't match their expectations that you would try to get them back. And that discomfort makes them start questioning whether they made the right decision in the first place. But silence is not just about them. It's about you. It's about reclaiming your power and protecting your peace. Every time you engage with someone who has already chosen to leave, you are giving them access to your emotions. You are allowing them to see your pain, to affect your mood, and to control your healing process. But when you stay silent, you take back that control. You set a boundary that says, I will not give my energy to someone who did not value it. And that boundary is one of the most powerful things you can establish in your life. Silence also gives you the space to heal properly. When you are constantly in contact with someone who hurt you, it becomes impossible to move forward. Every conversation reopens the wound, every interaction stirs up old emotions, and every word they say can pull you back into a place of pain. But when you cut off communication, you allow yourself the chance to detach, to process your emotions without interference, and to truly let go. And the more time that passes in silence, the clearer your mind becomes. You begin to see the situation for what it truly was, rather than through the lens of heartbreak. Another reason silence is so effective is that it forces the other person to sit with their own decisions. When you keep reaching out, you are relieving them of their guilt. You are making it easy for them to justify their choice because they see that you are still attached, that you are still waiting, that you are still holding on. But when you remove yourself completely, they are left with nothing but their own thoughts. They have to sit with the reality that they let go of someone who truly cared about them. They have to experience the quiet, the emptiness, the lack of attention. And for many people, that silence becomes unbearable. People often don't realize what they had until it's gone. When you were constantly available, they may have taken you for granted. But when you disappear, when you become unreachable, unbothered, and uninterested, Something shifts inside them. They start to replay memories, to miss the way you made them feel, to wonder if they underestimated your value. And that wondering, that lingering doubt becomes a powerful force that works in your favor. But here's the truth. Silence is only effective when it is genuine. If you are being silent just to manipulate them into missing you, it won't work. The real power of silence comes when you truly embrace it, not as a tactic, but as a way to protect yourself, to heal, and to move forward. When you reach a point where you no longer feel the need to prove anything to them, when their actions no longer dictate your emotions, when you find peace in your own solitude, that is when the silence truly becomes powerful. And by the time they finally realize what they lost, by the time they start to feel the full impact of your absence, you will have already moved forward. Because silence was never about them, it was always about you. When you shift your focus entirely onto yourself, something remarkable happens. You stop being a victim of the breakup and start being the architect of your new life. This isn't about pretending to be okay or putting on a show for others. This is about making real, tangible changes that elevate every part of who you are, mentally, emotionally, physically, and even spiritually. The moment you fully embrace this mindset, you break free from the emotional chains that once held you back. One of the biggest mistakes people make after a breakup is keeping their attention locked onto the person who left. They constantly check their social media. They analyze their every move. They wonder what they're thinking, and they hope for a message that might never come. All of this does nothing but keep them emotionally stuck. It keeps them living in the past instead of stepping boldly into the future. But when you turn all of that energy inward, when you make yourself the most important person in your life, everything changes. You start making decisions that benefit you, not based on what will get a reaction from them. And that is where real power lies. Focusing on yourself means setting goals that excite you. When you have something meaningful to work toward, you automatically stop obsessing over what was lost. Instead of replaying old memories in your mind, you start creating new ones. Whether it's advancing in your career, working on a fitness goal, starting a new hobby, or even just committing to becoming a better version of yourself, every step you take forward weakens the emotional hold that the breakup once had on you. Growth becomes your priority, and suddenly the person who left becomes irrelevant to your progress. This is also the time to strengthen your emotional resilience. After a breakup, emotions can feel overwhelming. Sadness, anger, regret, they all come in waves. But when you focus on yourself, you begin to take control of those emotions instead of letting them control you. You start practicing self-awareness, recognizing when you're slipping into negative thought patterns, and actively shifting your focus towards something productive. Meditation, journaling, and spending time in nature are just a few ways to center yourself and regain emotional balance. Another part of focusing on yourself is elevating your social life. During a relationship, people sometimes neglect friendships and personal connections outside of their partner. But now you have the chance to rebuild those relationships, to surround yourself with people who uplift and inspire you. This is not about using others as a distraction. It's about genuinely strengthening your support system, engaging in meaningful conversations, and enjoying the freedom that comes with being independent. When you have a strong circle of friends and loved ones, you realize that happiness doesn't come from one person. It comes from the experiences and connections you cultivate in your own life. Physical transformation also plays a major role in this process. It's not just about looking better, it's about feeling better. Exercise, healthy eating, and self-care routines help you build discipline, increase your confidence, and improve your overall well-being. When you take care of your body, your mind follows. You start waking up with more energy, feeling more alive, and carrying yourself with an unshakable presence. And the best part, this transformation is for you, not for anyone else. There's a psychological shift that happens when you fully embrace self-improvement. The more you grow, the less you feel the need for validation from the past. You start to see the breakup not as a loss, but as a redirection towards something greater. And the irony is, the moment you genuinely stop caring about what your ex thinks, that's when they begin to notice. They see the changes in you, they hear about your progress, and they realize that while they were expecting you to be broken, you were actually busy building. This realization creates a sense of regret in them, but by then you are too far ahead to be concerned with their thoughts. You have reclaimed your power, your energy, and your sense of purpose. You no longer seek closure because you've already given it to yourself. You no longer need their validation because you've created your own. And that is the ultimate freedom. When you stop looking back because you're too focused on what's ahead.